from Neighborhood House Adult Daycare Center, and today is Talk About It Tuesday. I have invited my mom to talk about childhood memories and things she's proud of, and she also wants to talk about one of her children. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Hi, welcome to Talk About Tuesday. I am Anita Hall, and I'm the mother of Brandy Hall, and she's asked me to share a few things with you. One of the things I am most proud of is the fact that I am part Native American. My great-grandmother was full Paiute Indian, and she was sold to the Mormon pioneers for a bag of flour. And from that point on, she was very young, and from that point on, she was raised in the home of Anson Call and eventually married a worker that Anson had and ended up settling in Idaho. While there, she was the midwife. The closest doctor was at Soda Springs, which was about 40 miles. And so to get word to him a doctor was needed, or that a baby was being born, just took too long. And my great-grandmother would take care of most of the pregnancies in her community. And because of that, she is referred to as Aunt Ruth, because she she delivered so many of the babies in that community. There's very few people there that, if they trace their lineage back, don't come to the point that one or the other of their parents or grandparents was given birth with my Grandma Ruth assisting. One of the things that also was the case is my grandmother's children were hunters and liked hunting and that. So when I was about 5 years old, my grandfather, who hunted a deer, and of course they used the meat to eat, but he tanned the leather and took it to a lady from the Blackfoot Indian tribe and asked her to make these gloves. And he had a set made for both of his daughters and the granddaughters, and also a pair of moccasins. So these were the gloves that were mine when I received them when I was about 5 years old. I truly treasure them. To me, they remind me of my heritage. They remind me of the hard work that people did without the conveniences of modern equipment and tools. And they remind me of the community that my mother was raised in. And I love going back there and enjoying that part of my heritage. I hope this has been interesting to you. One of the things that I think is important is to know about our past and to try to preserve some kind of record of that past. The gloves I just showed you certainly do. And when my children see them or others see them, it gives me the opportunity to remind them of their past and that they have the heritage of being part Native American. This is the award box for my son, which I realize I'm holding upside down. I'm sorry. His medals were hanging the wrong way. My son, after high school, went into the Coast Guard and had a wonderful, wonderful experience. His first assignment was to Kodiak, Alaska, which is an island off the shores of Alaska. Besides the Coast Guard base that is there, there are the Eskimo, the Native American indigenous people, which are up there Eskimos. Sam had a lot of fun in terms of learning about them and being around them. On one occasion, he was standing post as the ship was returning to Kodiak, and he had the impression to go look off the other side of the boat, and he did not want to. It was colder over there, but it kept coming to him, so he went and looked, changed his position so he could see off the other side. And about 1,000 yards away, he saw a flare go up. And so he ran down and told the captain of the flare, and they turned the boat to go and investigate it. It was a fishing boat that was going down. One man was already in the water, and the other two were holding on to what was still above water on the boat. So they were able to rescue those 3 men. What they learned after that rescue was those 3 men lived on Kodiak Island. And the gratitude of the people that the Coast Guard had saved them was just immeasurable. And so they made cookies and brought them to the boat for those people that had helped save their family members. So these are some of the awards that Sam got through the course of his enlistment in the Coast Guard. So he was stationed at Kodiak, went out to the Bering Sea, had all kinds of experiences in Alaska, went to the Russian international border on several occasions, and then he was transferred to Long Beach. And that changed the kind of things he was doing. In Alaska, they would board ships to make sure that their fishing activities were within the limits of the laws regarding commercial fishing. In Long Beach, they were boarding all kinds of boats, but also cruise ships. And sometimes they would need to escort the cruise ship back out into the deeper waters to make sure they didn't get off course and run aground. So that was a fun part for him, is to have that opportunity. He was able on a couple of occasions to be able to come in by helicopter. So they threw the ropes over, and the men went down those ropes to get on the deck of the ship. One of the coolest things that occurred while Sam was in the Coast Guard is on Veterans Day, he went down to a bar where a lot of Navy personnel and the people that fought in World War II would gather and enjoy drinks among themselves. And he went down, and as luck would have it, he ended up talking to an individual that had been on the same ship my father was on in World War II. My father was on an aircraft carrier called the USS Langley. And as Sam talked to this gentleman, he shared 2 things. One, that they would have boxing matches on the ship, and that Dad never lost a match in his weight group. The other thing that he remembered was my father got in trouble, and so they had what was called a captain's mask, which means it's kind of a court process. And the problem was, on a ship, if they were to take a hit from a torpedo or bombing or whatever, it was imperative that the hatches all be closed so the water damage would not spread to other parts of the ship. And so when that happens, everybody just closes the hatches for their area they're in, whether or not water is present or not. On one occasion, the boat was hit, and my dad was down in the engine room, which is where he served, and the other men there with him. And though they didn't know where the direct hit was, they did know water was coming in. And Dad had been issued a gun and taken an oath that if they were in that circumstance, he would defend that door and not let anyone open it and make sure that that didn't happen. Well, as luck would have it, they took a hit. The water was coming in. They had no idea whether or not the situation would be controlled in time to save them or if they would just drown there. One of the other sailors panicked and went and tried to open the door. And my father, being an Idaho boy and very familiar with weapons, took the pistol out and hit him over the back of the head with the hand grip of the pistol, which knocked him out and made it easy to control him. And so, needless to say, it all ended up being okay. They were able to be rescued from that compartment of the ship and went on to see another day. Unfortunately, rumors spread around the boat of how Dad had handled the situation. And so he was called in by the command on the ship and said, "You took an oath to use your gun to defend that door if you needed to." My father's answer was simple. "I did. I hit him over the back of the head, made him, rendering him unconscious, and the door was secured. So I did use my gun." And so they were taken back because obviously they thought the only way to use a gun was to shoot it. And my dad had quite the reputation as a result of that incident as well. I'm very proud of my family members that have served their country and the price that has been paid by so many and so many families. I'm so grateful that there are those willing to give that service and that they do it with pride and dignity. And so I had my father and two of his brothers serving in World War II. My mother had two brothers and a brother-in-law serving in World War II. So that was 6 immediate family members that were there. And we were blessed, all came home safely.